Hi, and welcome to Forder on Football, and it is the Canon Forder podcast, and I can very happily say I have got Lee Judges on this week. Thank you very much, Lee, for coming on. How are you?
I'm all good, thank you very much. Right, pleasure to be on.
Yeah, I've those of you who haven't watched this, I've had Lee's arch nemesis on here. So James has come on before, so it's Lee's turn to kind of no holds barred. You can say what you want about James Lee. It's fine on this platform. No problem.
He's good as gold. We get on really well. I actually got to do a show with him later on his channel, so that's why.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so he's got me in. He's got me involved. So yeah, he's a good lad. So we get on really well. Off to America next week as well with him. So that'd be good. So he's good fun. He's good fun.
Yeah, he is a good lad. I was on the Gooner Verse podcast. He's just changed the name, actually, for his whole channel today. So if you haven't watched that, please go and watch that, because James he's one of the nicest blokes you will ever meet as well. He really is. He knows his stuff. So obviously we had the football last night. Lee, you're not looking too worse for wear, so I'm guessing you weren't out too late watching it.
No, I had a few beers last night. Went round at one of my mates' houses. We've been up Liverpool for the weekend, and we come back and had a few beers. And I did have a few last night. You know what I mean? Like, sort of got involved with it, the build up and everything. We had the old England records on and all that, like, in the background, and getting excited for it. And it just wasn't to be, was it? Like, I honestly, genuinely thought England would win. I genuinely, funny enough, me and James had. On the Forever Arsenal, had the sweepstake. He had Spain and I had England, so he's won that. So I just fancied us that we was gonna win it, but unfortunately it didn't happen. And to be honest, at 1-1, I did think we was going to win it, but Spain were just slightly better than us over the course of the game and probably deserved it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's funny you say about that one when we went to 1-1. We were really in the ascendancy. I thought, oh, this could be it. This could be the time we take over. We've seen it. We've seen it in the past in cup finals where we had that drought and Arsenal still didn't win the FA Cup. We saw it this year with United taking on City. I thought, there's room to win, but it just seemed like Southgate put the brakes on again. I don't know how you felt about it. Did you think the changes were too late? Do you think that's what happened, or?
I think like the end of it, you have to give Spain a little bit of credit, because we was in something. They gradually got back into it again, and they started to dominate our midfield. What happened was we obviously just left Declan Rice in there on his own, didn't he, to go and get the goal. Got the goal, and then I thought they exploited that, if I'll be honest. And I know he was trying to get Gallagher on, and people were going, "Oh, we don't want to get up," but you can't afford it. Top level or any level really to lose midfield battles, and we were starting to lose it. And I think then unfortunately we got overrun in midfield. They got it out wide, and another day those are offside, and you live to fight another day. But it weren't to be, and once they scored, you just knew that was it. But if it weren't for the off the line, Declan Rice, good header, a good save, and then you knew then that was it. But it was a gallant effort. I do think a couple of things. I think Southgate, probably not adventurous enough, and if I'd be really honest, probably not good enough. And I just think our key players were jaded, tired. If I look back at it now, Bellingham tired, Foden done very little. I think he had one good half in the whole time that he played there, but nowhere near at the level that he was for Man City. You could even say Declan Rice weren't great. Harry Kane certainly wasn't. I think Saka looked tired towards the end. The only one that really looked fresh was Cole Palmer. And he did look fresh. But when you think about it, the likes of Cole Palmer and those sort of players, the Chelsea players, Crystal Palace players that done well in this tournament, they hadn't had European football. And I think the long hard season, Jude Bellingham, for instance, has gone to the Champions League final and won it, and then you've got to go again. Yeah, it was hard. I'm not making excuses, but that's what it was, and I just felt that we wasn't quite fresh enough at the end of it. And half decent performance from a few players, though. You know, Gay, he played very well. Mainu, I thought, was very, very good. Luke Shaw when he came into the side, but you know, too many players off of their game. Carl Walker, another one that I do rate normally. You know, has been fantastic for Man City over the last few years. Just wasn't quite at it, and yeah, disappointing.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I must admit, we had such hype around some of these players. You know, we've got Foden Player of the Year, Bellingham Player of the Year, Kane top goal scorer in the Bundesliga. You got the star boy Saka, Rice coming off on an incredible season, and like you say, it was really the stars of the show were the ones who you didn't expect. If you're mentioning Luke Shaw, an injured Luke Shaw as well, you know, one of
Yeah.
the best performing players, I think that speaks volumes, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, it does. You know what I mean? Like, he done well when he come on the last couple of games, and you know, I thought probably was one of the better players in the final, if I'll be honest. John Stones got better as the competition went on, but when you look at it, like, and talking about this today, if Harry Kane was anywhere near the form that he's been at for the last few seasons for England, we'd have won it. I really do believe that. He was nowhere near at the levels that he's been in the last few tournaments. Obviously, he's carrying some sort of injury, but realistically, that's where Gareth should have, you know, like, you could turn around and say Harry Kane should have turned around and said, no, I'm not fit for that. But no player's going to really do that, are they? Like, you know, it is on the manager to say, look, you're not fit, they're not going to play. And I think that he'll regret that because part of you wants to say, right, yeah, you can't leave Harry Kane out, and I get that, and I'm in that. I was in that boat. I was saying, no, you can't leave him out. But if it is coming to fruit what they're saying that he was injured and he was only half fit, then no, I'm sorry, that's on Southgate. He should have made that decision a lot earlier. And if he says, look, Harry's not fit, I think people would have accepted it, and it would have been a lot better, like, you know. But I think Harry Kane's getting a lot of stick now, and a little bit unjust if that is the case. But you know, even unfit and poor, he still scored 3 goals. So imagine if he would have been at his very, very best. I think England would have probably got over the line. But unfortunately, when it comes to these big tournaments and big games for Harry Kane, he's either injured or he's not there. So that will be a disappointment. And I would imagine that ain't sitting right with the likes of Ivan Toney and Watkins, knowing that if he was only half fit, he was being picked in front of them. So a few little mistakes from the manager along the way as well. But, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? And we just have to accept, look, you know, they were just slightly better than us, you know, and probably did deserve it.
Yeah, considering, I mean, they were the better team. You know, they're a team that have gone, was it 7 games unbeaten in the tournament? No, it's not done very often. I think it's probably once or twice done before. And then we still lost by 1 goal, and the team hasn't been playing well. So all in all, I think it could have been, you know, a lot worse. There seems to be as well, I don't know if you heard this, Lee, a lot of trouble in the camp. Suddenly, the media outlets have started coming out. Bellingham seems to have been a big kind of part of it as well. So it seems that there's a bit of preferential treatment with him, so he didn't have to do certain media duties. Southgate kind of let him do what he wanted. There was a bit of a hoo-ha about the Hey Jude advert, making it kind of all about him and not the rest of the team. So apparently a lot of the players weren't happy about that. And then I saw it was interesting because at the end of the game, after the loss, the final whistle went, they kind of cut away from him, and pictures are coming out of him now. He'd kicked over the drinks cabinet or something like that, then went and sat on the bench away from all the players on his own. No one went and consoled him. No one went to talk to him. And there's also been video footage of him kind of just before Harry Kane came off, like giving absolute, well, I don't know what the word is, giving him beans to Southgate, essentially. He was verbal tirade at him, it seems, just before Harry Kane came off. So there seems to be a little bit of a kind of fracture between him and the rest of the squad, which I didn't realise at the beginning. But, I mean, is that a bit, you know, is it a big game player? He wants to win. He'll do what he wants, you know, to get to over the line. Or is it kind of, you know, he's the one player who's not part of that squad, not part of that team. Like, have you got any ideas about that? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, it's interesting that I've only just seen that come out now. I didn't know it was as bad as what you just highlighted it, really. But listen, I think that how can I put this? We've all played. We've all played in teams when there's been a player like that. But if they're doing the business, you accept it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if it be a goal scorer or whoever it will be, a little story. I played with a goal scorer who was a fantastic goal scorer, but like, if he didn't score goals, you'd be on him. You know what I mean? Like, not in a nasty way. You know what I mean? Like, you do your job, sort of thing. Like, 9 times out of 10, he'd score his goals and do the business. But if he didn't and he'd pipe up, there would be a quick response from people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you do your job. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't doing your job. Blah blah blah. Now, with Jude Bellingham, I think everything's come a little bit too quick on him. If I'll be really honest, I'm going to be really honest. I didn't really think too much of it at the time, but I didn't like his reaction when he scored that overhead kick. When he went, it's me, it's down to me. Like, well, you hadn't really done a lot before that. Okay, you got the header before that, but ultimately, I think it was a poor tournament for him. And where I think Jude Bellingham gets away with it a little bit, we was talking about this the other day. It was funny enough, we was coming home for a little. I think because Jude Bellingham has played for Birmingham and then he's gone over to Dortmund, then he's gone over to Real Madrid, there's none of that rivalry, tribal rivalry if he played for a Man City, a Man United, an Arsenal or a Tottenham or somebody like that. Like, so all the fans, like myself, and I put myself in this category, I quite like him because I haven't got that thing with him playing for Spurs or playing for Man United or playing for Man City or whatever. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you quite, and I've seen a couple of things that he's done, and I thought, well, I've let him off because it's Jude. If it would have been Harry Kane or Foden or something, I'd have gone, look at him. What's he? You know what I mean? Like, a little bit arrogant, a little bit this, a little bit that. So maybe that's what's happened with him. It's not a good look. If I noticed he come off the plane at the end of the day, he was one of the last ones off as well. Like, so yeah, and it is funny when you go away with players. It's funny that you might see them for 1 or 2 games and whatever, but it's when you go in those little camps and you're with them 4 or 5 weeks, you see different. You see more of their personality, should I say? Like, do you know what I mean? You get to know them a little bit more. And maybe some of the players have seen what he's been like and not liked it, because I think the one thing you can say about Gareth Southgate, and I'll give him credit for it, is that he's made England a club situation with everybody, and that's never been there with England over the years. You've had like the little cliques of Man United, Arsenal, and listen, at the end of the day, when you're kicking lumps out of each other trying to win titles, and then all of a sudden you've got to come together, it's a little bit tougher, you know what I mean? I've done it at a different level, when like at county level, when you're sort of playing, you're
I've been there.
then all of a sudden you've got to go into the same team as a county, like, and you've been kicking lumps out of a fella, like, and all of a sudden you've got to be his mate. So it is tough, it's difficult. So I'll give him credit for that, and if Jude's coming along and sort of breaking that up, then that is a bit of a worry, like, you know what I mean? But I do think he's a top player. But in this tournament, I don't think he's been great. Also, another incident, I don't know if you remember it. I thought it was a bit arrogant at the time, but didn't think nothing of it. It was when, do you remember, like, I think they put the number 14, number 10 up instead of number 14. He said, well, it ain't me.
Yeah.
It ain't me. You know what I mean? Like, check that, it ain't me. And he's just like, and I thought, well, you ain't playing that well. It could be you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day.
Especially when Foden and Kane are coming off, these are established players.
There was a time when Saka, Foden and Kane come off. I think it was in the game before, and he just turned around and just said to me, ain't me, and walked off, like, and I thought, oh, very, very confident, considering he wasn't playing that well. So maybe that's what set the players. I don't know. So that's an interesting fit. I ain't going to go too bad on him, because at the end of the day, I still think he's a talent. I do think that if I'll be really honest, he was shattered in this one. And I thought on times that he should have come off. And in the final, he sort of played wide left, didn't he? And to his credit, he never moaned about it. He just got on with the job there. So I'll give him credit for that. Where probably he didn't want to, he'd have been looking at it and going, well, hold on a minute, Foden's done nothing, and you're pushing me out wide. But he took it for the team there. So it'd be really interesting to see what comes of all this now.
Yeah, I mean, he's undoubtedly, a fantastic footballer. For him to go in that rise, go to Madrid, which is an unbelievably difficult place to go and succeed. We've seen so many players. Do you remember when Modric first went there, and then they voted him as like the worst signing ever? And we know how good he was. So to go there at that age, I think that speaks volumes about him. Well, I did think the kind of the new role of like, a leadership role position for Bellingham. Well, that was a bit strange from Southgate to kind of put him in that leadership squad at his age. Don't get me wrong, he's achieved massive things already in the game, but at his age, I just thought there's probably better people to do it, and he's quite abrasive. Maybe that's why he was put in that leadership squad, because he's going to say what he thinks. He's not going to sugarcoat it. I didn't like that Harry Kane kind of came out and said, "Oh, don't say bad things about us." I want someone to come out and say, "No, we're going to win this, and we'll prove you wrong." So, and I think that's kind of what Bellingham's a bit more like. Maybe you need a bit of a diverse amount of personalities and characteristics. But well, we know how that final went. So
yeah, I think that's a great point as well, though, what you're saying there. But for Jude Bellingham to succeed as he has by going to Dortmund and then going over to Real Madrid, you've got to have something a little bit. You can't. You'd be a little bit more about like Gareth Bale, for instance, was quality, and he struggled a little bit at first, if you remember rightly. But he's gone over there. I know I'm Jude Bellingham, really not with that much of a pedigree as some other players have gone to Real Madrid and just smashed it. So he must have some sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Personality to and be bold enough and brave enough to say, look, I'm the guy. You know what I mean? And probably to walk in. Listen, I've spoken to players in the past and ex-professionals, that have gone into England and they've been a little bit overawed by it. You know what I mean? Like at England, you're thinking, well, really? But you're a professional footballer. He's just walked into England whenever it was and said, "No, I'm the man." So you've got to admire that in some way, but also probably you're not going to be liked by everybody being like that. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like someone like Saka is a different person where everybody seems to love him, but the way he is. But I don't think he's as brash as Jude.
No. One thing I've liked about Saka recently is he started showing a little bit. Do you remember the Madison, the celebration? He's done a couple now. He did it with a corner. He hit the corner and turned to the fans, gave him a little bit of that. I quite like that coming out in Saka because I don't think that's kind of in his nature. He's obviously a lovely lad. He's kind of, everything that you'd want your son to be, being a professional footballer as such, really. He carries himself so well. But I don't think he kind of gets applauded enough. Maybe it's the Arsenal thing. Maybe it's because he's quite quiet. But I was looking into numbers. So he was first in our shot creating actions for England, second for dribbles, first for open play chances, first for crosses, first for successful passes into the box. So he carried our attack. Like he did. And when you're looking at other players like Kane, Bellingham, Foden, you're looking around there and you're thinking they're probably going to be those people kind of penetrating the box and making those passes into the box, and they weren't. And no one's talking about it. Saka didn't have a great tournament, but he has carried that attack. He's been the one consistent player who does everything right. He got pulled out of position, put at left wing back, put at right wing back. He's asked to do everything. He's one of the few players that kind of tracks back and does that dirty work as well. But it's a real shame that our country can't kind of get behind them. And maybe, like you said, it is that tribalism, because don't get me wrong, when Harry Kane scored that goal, I still give it one of those. It's like it's not.
It's there. I think it is there with Saka. Look at the beginning of the tournament. Everybody was going, "Oh, you got to drop Saka, got to drop Saka." No, weren't drop Foden, weren't drop Bellingham, Saka. So when Saka started doing well, love and behold, they're all on the Declan Rice now. You know what I mean? It was the first name on the sheet. So it's just the way it is. I wouldn't go too much into it. Like, I think that with Saka, I like what you say. He has got a little bit more spiky. I think that you need to do that and show yourself. But I think that you're also right. I thought he was England's best attacking player, and also which people will underappreciate is the work rate he does and the backtracking that he does. I think at the end of the day, like that's something he has to do under Arteta, so it comes natural to him. But he was getting into positions yesterday where he has to track back, playing off the fullback. And I don't think, if I'll be really honest, Walker's his favourite sort of a player, because Walker is that doesn't really like feed him too much. You know, goes on runs, which I don't think suited Saka, if I'll be honest. But you know, you look at it and you say, like, yeah, he had a decent tournament. Not stand out, but then no one was stand out for England, were they, from an attacking point of view? And I think maybe that was the stifling of the tactics and things like that weren't quite as free and flowing as we should be. And when you look at the players that we have, we should be a little bit more free flowing. But I think it comes down to, you know, can I really say it without causing too much controversy? I think the manager has to turn around and say it's either Jude Bellingham or Foden that played it. Not try and shoehorn them in. We've had that before with the Gerrard, Lampard, Scholes situation back here, and it cost us. It absolutely cost us. So maybe the new manager coming in, or Gareth Southgate's got to be brave enough to say, no, I'm playing it. Because realistically, Jude Bellingham, is he a better winger or a wide player in that position than Gordon or Rashford or Grealish? No, he's not.
Yeah.
But there he was playing that role. So big and brave, you know, and at the end of it, he's being paid £9 million to make those decisions, you know, and I'm sorry, look, the man coming in, you've got to make, sometimes you have to make those decisions, or you have to make it work with those two in it, if that's what you want to do. But I think by putting them two in there, it perhaps messed up Kane a little bit, messed up Saka a little bit. You know, you want to get the best out of everybody, not just concentrating on two players. I felt that Foden, listen, am I a big fan of his? No, because he plays for Man City, but like admirer of him, yes. You know, he was fantastic for Man City last season, unbelievable. But he's not the same player playing for England, and we've had that in the past. John Barnes was magnificent for Liverpool.
Yeah.
Same for England. So, you know, sometimes you've got to get the best out of these players, and if you can't, then you have to look at it different ways. You could go on with lots of players. Was Steven Gerrard better for, you know, did he ever really put his Liverpool form into England? No, nor did Lampard, nor did Scholes. So there's loads of players that have not done it. So it's not a criticism of Foden, but if you're going to play him in that role, and you know, that's 7 games that he's played, and he's 6.5 of them he hasn't done the business there, and that's caused problems for Bellingham, it's caused problems for Saka, and so on and so on. So that's something that Southgate will have to learn from.
Do you think he's going to be there? Do you think he'll leave, resign? Do you think the FA? I can't see the FA having the balls to kind of go, right, that's the end of this tenure. We're moving on. To get over the line, that last little bit, we need to change our philosophy. We need someone else to come in. So do you think Southgate is going to resign? Because at the moment, I mean, to be fair to him, and he seems like such a nice bloke. I felt awful for him. He looked defeated, personally, before that final, kind of with all the kind of the fan. I wouldn't go as far as abuse, but you know, he had a lot of people kind of gunning for him, let's be honest, and the way he approached games. Do you think he'll walk out, or do you reckon he'll look at it and go, you know what, I've got an opportunity here, maybe I can do one last throw of the dice for the World Cup?
Do you know, it's a great question. I think if he's going to have to be a little bit more bolder with his selections and everything like that to do that. Personally, I think it's time for a change. I do. I think that it needs just someone else just to come in now. It would be very harsh on him if a new manager comes in and was to take us to the World Cup, because then people would go, oh, look, that's because Southgate wasn't that quite good. But if I'm Gareth Southgate, I think he's very, very fortunate to be England manager, but he's done a decent enough job. I think get out while you can, you know what I mean, would be the mark. But that's easier said than done, you know. You're, how can I say, you know, like if you was in a job and they're saying that you can carry on doing this for $9 million a year, there's nothing else out there. What would you do? I think that if there was a top Premier League club coming for him, and I think that he may decide that would be, but there isn't. I don't think. Listen, I'll say it now, and I'll say it. If Arsenal, if Mikel wanted to leave tomorrow, and Gareth Southgate was linked for the job, I'll be handing in my season ticket. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm pretty sure Spurs would be, Manchester United, and everybody like that. So he's in a very, very privileged position. I think if he wants to carry on managing, he ain't going to get it anywhere else. So, you know, I think at the end of the day, it'd be stupid to make a decision now. If I was him, I'd go on holiday now, get myself a bit of Dubai sun, sit down and think what it's going to be like. We'll let the dust settle and then make a decision from there. Like, if he goes, I'm going to be really honest. I'm not bothered. I think, yeah, great. If he does decide to stay, then okay, fair play. If you look at it in a statistical world and stats world and all that, like, and if you go, right, show us your CV, it says on there 2 Euro finals, a World Cup quarter final, and a World Cup semi-final. You look at that, people go, oh yeah, I'll bite your hand off for that. That's great. Yeah. That's great. But when you look at it in context, he's been very, very fortunate with all the teams that we've played, and when it's come down to it, to win those tournaments, we had a poor Italy side, let's be honest, and look what we've done since. Croatia were well, credit to them, but they was not the Croatia. France, yes, Harry Kane penalty could have been different there and everything like that. And Spain, that we've just lost to now, are a decent side. So out of it, probably should have won two. Probably should have won two tournaments, and then you'll be looking at him in a different way. But he just hasn't done it for whatever reason. You look back at I look back at the one against Italy with more disappointment and anger than this one. I even though we didn't really go for it in this one, I can understand that. But in that Italy game, we went 1-0 up and we had the chance to really put it on them, and for whatever reason we didn't. And I think maybe that will be the thing that will go against him. I think fans now believe that, and I'm not all fans, but a lot of England fans believe if we had a top class manager, we would have won something. Yeah, even though we got to these stages, which is harsh on him, but I think it's a reality. If I'll be honest, I think it's a reality.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of parallels between his career and Arteta's career. If you look at kind of, they both more or less come out of first jobs in a big position. They've got close. They haven't got across the line. And I've seen that quite a lot. I mean, Twitter is a cesspit, let's be honest, a lot of the time, like with opinions and stuff. The difference is that with Arteta, I have complete faith in his ability to kind of change tactics. We've seen so many different faces. We went through that period where Arsenal couldn't defend, and now he's changed it so well that we've got the best defence in the league. We're able to attack in lots and lots of different ways. And I look at Southgate's England and I think, what is your plan? Like, what's our tactical identity? You'll like this, Lee. I woke up this morning and I had a text. I thought, who on earth texted me while I was sleeping? Because I'm usually out quite early doors with a dog. And I looked, and it was Graham Brooks. So Graham had messaged me late at night, early hours of the morning, explaining to me the importance of pressing. And I thought, well, I mean, if any text kind of sums up a man, that was it with Graham. But he was so right. And I thought, we don't have a cohesive press. We don't have like a low block that we settle into. We don't have passing plays that we kind of stick to. Even the midfield, we started and we were like, oh, we've got Trent And now we've got not Palmer. We had
Gallagher.
and then we had Mainu. You know, we're like, what really is the three? And that's our spine of our team. You know, that's where I look at it. That's where games are won and lost. Really, the midfield.
100%.
And that's, you know, that's a striker saying that. So, you know, it must be pretty important. And I also think, is Rice a 6? Is he an 8? He's played the whole season as an 8 now. Suddenly you're switching him back to a 6 and you haven't got runners for him. There's so many times he had the ball, he looked up and he's thinking, where do I go? Where do I pass?
There was no pass on. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You know?
So whether or not that is players being unable to run, like Kane, I don't think he was able to make the runs in behind, although he doesn't like doing them anyway. I think Southgate hasn't given me much confidence to say, yeah, you deserve another World Cup now. I don't think that's the you know, the right message to send to the country or to the players. Having said that, I don't think there's many top managers now, like Premier League managers, that will look at the England job and go, I want to leave my Premier League job and go there. I don't know who we attract. You know, there's, you look at the big names, you're not going to get a Pep. You're not getting Arteta. Klopp's, you know, leaving. I can't see us pulling Klopp in. Then you look at the next level down. I don't see an Eddie Howe going.
No.
You're then kind of looking at maybe a Graham Potter. I saw Gary O'Neill's name banded around a little bit, and I think he might be one. But even still, are you going to leave Wolves for it? Which would be laughable 10, 20 years ago. Of course you would. Now, I don't know. Who would you get in, Lee? Is there anyone would you go for a foreign manager? Would you stick British?
I wouldn't go for a foreign manager. I think you got to stick to your own there. Graham Potter is the obvious choice because, you know, and I think that at the end of the day, we as fans sometimes I go, oh, well, it didn't work at Chelsea, so he's no good. But he done a very good job up until that Chelsea thing. Yeah. I wouldn't write off someone like Frank Lampard or Steven Gerrard. You know what I mean? And reasons being that Frank Lampard done a very, very good job with Chelsea when he got them in the top 4 when they had the transfer ban. He had to coach and nurture young players to come through and got them 4th in the league and done a decent job. Done a decent job at Everton, but it was always tough. You know what I mean? If I be really honest, a tough job. So he's learned a couple of things there. Steven Gerrard, people that go straight, wow, he failed at Aston Villa, but he succeeded at Rangers, which is difficult to do. He took a job there and which was dominated by Celtic and eventually got the title there. So I wouldn't write out those guys. As I said, with Graham Potter, I wouldn't write off as well. And I've got to be really honest, Gary O'Neill has done a fantastic job at Wolves, done brilliant at Bournemouth. But they're the ones you're looking at. Now, going back years ago, we had a lot of good managers and you could pick one and it would work, or you thought it would work. You know, we had like young and up and coming. This is where I go back to like young and up and coming when people go, like, well, Glenn Hoddle was young and up and coming. And okay, it didn't work out in the end. But I tell you what, that 98 side that he had was a very, very good side. It didn't work because there were better teams than us about in those.
He made some big calls as well.
Made some very big calls. Big calls. And probably, if I'll be honest, that's the most entertaining team that I've seen for a very long time. 96 was very interesting, but 98 was an entertaining side with a lot of superstars, a lot of good players in there. But as you say, he made some very, very difficult decisions. But for England to get to the World Cup, they would have had to have gone through Argentina, then a really, really good Dutch side, and then an unbelievable Brazilian side, and then the French side of Thierry Henry, Patrick Vieira, those sort of guys. Nowadays, you look at it, it's not like that. So, you know, it's a tough one, like, you know. So I think go down that route would be okay. But, you know, but you're dead right what you're saying there. Like, you know, years ago, I don't know what the salary was, but the England manager was the most sought after job. You know, if you was at Man United, you was at Arsenal or whatever. If England come knocking, you'd go. You know, of it all. But I don't think the money's any different. You know, okay, I think he's on 9 million a year, but Arteta's on more than that. I'll imagine that a lot of these managers are going to be close or near on that sort of money. So the money side of it is not as a bigger incentive as it was sort of 20, 30 years ago. So, I don't really know. I think that if you was an up and coming manager, I would look at it. If I was Steven Gerrard or Frank Lampard or Gary O'Neill, I will take the job because of the players that we've got. I don't think we've had a generation of players that when I look at it and think, right, who are you going to play on the right hand side? Well, you can play Saka, you can play Palmer out there. There's options out there, options up front. There's options at the back. Gay has had such a fantastic tournament now. You've got options at the back now all over. Midfield, we've got Bellingham, Mainu and Declan Rice, all under 24 years of age. Yeah. So you've got, a midfield that could be, Foden, if you bring into that as well, like 25. Yeah, you've got 5 years with all these players in and around the side. I think someone said Luke Shaw's only 28. I couldn't believe that. I thought he's been around for such a long while. Okay, Carl Walker may not be here, but when you look at it, you've got Trent, you've got Ben White. Yeah, exactly. You've got James at Chelsea, if he can get himself fit. Good fullbacks, good central defenders. 3 goalkeepers that have got, a long lifespan in them at this moment in time. Harry Kane, as poor as he's been in there, we'll get back to his best. He's only 31, is he? So he's got another tournament in him. So if I was a manager, I'll be excited about taking the England job because there is some very, very good players, and there's some still younger players still coming through that are about in the team now. Adam Walton, who's not even participated in this tournament, is a real player for the future. So. It could still be a good thing for England. I really do. I just think you've got to be a little bit more bold and take it, be a bit more attacking and go for it a little bit more. And I think that's where Southgate lets himself down. Yeah. And if I'm a manager or one of those guys, I'm going to say, right, I'm coming in and I'm going to make us a little bit more expansive and a little bit more exciting.
So what you're saying, Lee, is if the FA are watching, for 9 million, you do the job.
I'll do the job and I'll probably do it better than Gareth.
I love
but also, that. Which is another thing which people go on, it's not necessarily you're the figurehead, you manage it. Alex Ferguson wasn't the greatest coach in the world, but what he's done, he got good coaches in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like England get good coaches in under whoever it be, and things could work. So that's important as well. It's not just the man that's at the helm. You've got to get the right staff and all that, But I do think England will be one of the favourites for the World Cup. I really do. And they, the difference between England now and England of the past is that we've never been the favourite or the best team in it. Like, if we be honest, there's always been like a Spain, a Germany, or a France, or a Brazil, or an Argentina in their pomp. You know what I mean? And players in their pomp. This Euros, we went in there as favourites because why? Because we had the best players, and that is why I think maybe it's time for a change.
Yeah, I hate the idea of the golden generation, Lampard, Gerrard and Scholes and stuff. They were an incredible team. But when I look back then, I can remember it. That was just the 96 Euros was the first kind of big competition that I remember. Then the 98 World Cup, that kind of was like the big one for me. I loved that competition. It was unbelievable. But when you look at those teams, we were always like a tier below.
Yes.
I remember us going out to Brazil and Ronaldinho hit the ball for a free kick over Seaman, and people go, it was the manager's fault. It was this, it was that. We could have maybe got an extra kind of 5% out of them, but we were never, ever as good as those teams. Like you say, the France team that won the World Cup. You had Zinedine Zidane, you had Petit,
Yeah.
you had Vieira, you had Trezeguet, Henry coming through. You know, they're unbelievable players right the way through that team. The Brazil team, just that forward line of Ronaldinho, Ronaldo, like the true Ronaldo, and then Rivaldo. People forget Rivaldo as a Ballon d'Or winner. You know, unbelievable player, one of the best players I've ever had the joy to watch. I remember doing trying to do left foot free kicks like him. They had Roberto Carlos and just an unbelievable team. And when you compare them, we weren't at that kind of chopping block as such. You know, we weren't eating at the same table as them. But now I think we can say that we're almost there. There's a couple. You're always going to have a couple of holes in your team. Like you say, we could kind of grow into that now. I think we've got enough young players coming through that are playing under enough good managers to learn a different system. And I think the fact that we've got a manager in Southgate that plays a conservative game, and we've got so many players now that play under teams like, you know, big managers like Pep and Arteta that play expansive football, that play a pressing game. That's for you, Graham. And we're not playing that style. We're not even attempting to. I think we must be one of the only countries that don't have an identity. You know, you think of like samba football with Brazil.
Yeah,
you think of Italy and their defending. What does everyone think about, like, off our continent, kind of around the world? What does everyone think about with England? Because I don't know our style. I don't know what we're known for. You know, even the Dutch haven't won a big competition, but everyone knows the total football. You know, everyone knows how they're going to play. We don't have that. Maybe we just go back to 4-4-2 and just do it that way. Have you know, a big striker and a little striker and try to do that. But not even like winning second balls that the Premier League is known for. We're not even doing that. So I do think we need to kind of go back to basics. I don't know how much you're into rugby, Lee, but I remember Clive Woodward coming through and going, we are going back. We're tearing down the establishment. We're going back from ground zero and build it up. And we did the whole thing. And I hate the idea of, you know, phase 5 or whatever it's called from Arteta, but at least there's a plan in place. And we won the World Cup with the rugby by doing that. I think England now need to do that. We need to look at this and go, okay, Gareth Southgate's kind of come in as a director of football. That's the way I look at him. He's made the togetherness. He's got the fans involved. You know, everyone's kind of behind the country again when, let's be honest, it was pretty dire. I think a lot of people were switched off to international football in this country.
Yeah, they were.
But maybe we look at that and go, okay, what's the next step? You know, how do we start breeding through these players? What are we doing in grassroots football? How are we changing that? Like even Spain, that Spain team, they were very good. But if you look man for man, a lot of those players aren't like the old Spain team where, you know, half of them play for Barcelona, the other half played for Real Madrid. A lot of these players are playing for like Sociedad and you know, and if we can, if we're comparing them, are they man for man, you know, better than us? You know, is a Ruiz and as an Olmo, are they at the same level as a Bellingham and a Foden? You know, I know Lamal's kind of the exception to the rule. He's an incredible player, especially for his age. But is he as established as Saka? Have we got, you know, we've got Williams on the other side, Nico Williams that we've been linked to, which I love. I'd love to get him. But he's still a raw player. Yeah. He's not a player that's played years and years and years. He's only had one season playing left wing. He's played double the amount of games at right wing. So they're not an unbeatable force. You know, they're not like an unbelievable team like we used to have. But I think that might be a pretty bad indictment for international football as it is, because they don't seem to be, you know, these teams don't seem to be as good as they used to be, like you say. Or maybe I'm just getting old, Lee. Maybe that's what it is.
I think it's right. You know, you look at that Brazilian side, you said, like, with Rivaldo, as you say, people don't realise how good he was. But we took them to, you know, they were hanging on at the end there. Do you remember Ronaldinho got sent off and where, you know, they was holding on at the end of the day. So, you know, that's how close that we were. But, you know, those teams don't exist no more. They're not there. As you say, like Spain have gone unbeaten in this competition without those sort of players. You know what I mean? Like, I dread to think what that French team was, or the Spanish team of you know, what they had, you know, the Iniestas and those sort of guys. Fabregas weren't even a regular. Well, I think Fabregas, they made him a false nine, but
False nine. Yeah.
They had David Villa. They unbelievable. So Poirier at the back, you know what I mean? Like they was, listen, off the chart, you know, and to compete and win against those teams was tough. That's not there no more. You know, like I look at Germany now, like, you know what I mean, like going back in when I was growing up, they was an awesome team, Germany, like, you know, nowhere near that aura about them now that they've got, like, you know, but that's how it is, and we there's a missed opportunity. It's been a missed opportunity in my eyes, and I think you have to look at the manager in that as well. It's as simple as that. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But you know, I think at the end of the day, he's done okay. He's done okay. You can't say that he's not, but I don't think, you know, he's won everybody over, is he? Not everybody's now saying like, oh, well, he's got to stay, he's got to stay. There's a reason for that. There's a reason for that.
Yeah. I mean, he must have done something good, because on an Arsenal podcast, we've talked about England for this long. No, we haven't talked about the Arsenal. So we'll move on, Lee. We'll move on. Plus, we lost, so I don't really want to talk about it too much longer.
No, that's it. It's done now. It's done now. We're on to the main things now. Arsenal back in trainings and we're getting close.
Yeah, and it's nice to see some, you know, some big players still at the training ground. We've got Odegaard over there. I saw Timber training today. Tommy Asu's over there. So we've got some, you know, good players. It's not all kind of doom and gloom with the, well, I mean, we've had a lot of minutes. I looked at the minutes kind of played. I think Man City doubled us for the Euros, which is quite a good thing. They've had double the amount of minutes played. I think it's been shared out by a few more players than us, but Declan Rice and Saka are obviously right at the top. They've had long, hard seasons this year, but it's nice that we've got a bigger squad now, and I think Arteta and Edu are kind of looking at fleshing it out a bit. On that news, it seems like ESR has had a transfer bid kind of ushered away, let's say it that way, from Crystal Palace and from Fulham. How much would you let him go for, if you would let him go for, Lee? Because the rumours are, it looks like it's going to be, they're wanting 25 million. Both of those clubs, I think their record fees are in the 20 millions. Would you be happy with that? Would you want more?
I want more than that. I want more than that. When you're looking at certain players leaving at this moment in time, you know, Delap has just left Man City and gone to Ipswich for 20 million. You know, I'm sorry, you know what I mean? He's an international. I get that perhaps they don't want to spend big because of the injury problems. I get that. So if you're going to go for 25 million, okay, but then there's got to be clauses on top of that make it 35 minimum for me. 35 million, I think, is a bargain for a quality player. Scores goals. The only thing that stops Emile becoming an Arsenal player of the likes of Saka and his injuries is just when it's really mattered, he's been injured. And I mean that the season before last, he needed a good pre-season, didn't have a pre-season, and he missed all the Europa League games. So that was a thing. When he come back into the squad, we didn't have no games. And this season, you can't just say, right, I'm leaving you out for a Champions League game to build your fitness and build your confidence and things like that. It's just missed opportunities for him, like, you know. Would I love to see him stay? Of course I would, but, you know, football's not all about fairy tales at the end of the day. You know, you have to look at it and be realistic. Sometimes in football, you miss the boat. You can be lucky, and other times you just miss the boat. Unfortunately, like for Saka, he caught the boat. For Emile, it's not quite happened, like, you know. And I want him to go and do really well, like, you know. I'd love him to say, like, he'd go on loan and all that, but I don't think that's going to be the case, like, you know. I think it's going to be like cash. And a lot of Arsenal fans will say, I'd rather see Vieira go than Smith Rowe. I get that, but football at this level is not just about football; it's about business as well, and what's better for the. And you have to accept that. You know, we've let players like Martinez go on business, not footballing sense. You know, and probably, like, you know, on a footballing sense, we'd probably let Vieira go, but on a business sense, I don't like to say it, but it's for the best.
So frustrating with PSR now because you see some of these deals going around, and we all know that there's some kind of dodgy dealings going there, some loopholes being dived through, and we seem to be one of the few clubs that always plays by the rules. Doesn't
Yeah, that's the right thing.
doesn't kind of do the same as some of the other clubs. I do think for Emile, he's in a position now where we've evolved so much since he's been injured. There's not really like a position for him anymore. He's not a traditional left eight for us. He's got incredible ball carrying, but I can't see him fulfilling the same duties as like we've missed Xhaka. I didn't think I'd ever say that, but we've missed Xhaka and the way that he's played in that role. I can't see Emile doing that. He can't do the same as Declan Rice does with the pressing from that position. I don't see him as left winger either. He had a pretty good run in that position. Some might say he's similar to Trossard, but he's not as clinical as him. And I think Trossard and Martinelli have got that unlocked. How are you going to drop one of those to put Emile in? So at this point, I think we do have to move him on. And like you say, a lot of people say about Fabio Vieira. Then two things for Vieira that he's got on his side. That one, he is more of the kind of Odegaard mold than Emile is. Whether, he's not at the same level as Odegaard, but I think he can kind of play that passing game. I think he's much better retaining the ball. He's got kind of like a penetrative pass as well. He's able to play that lofted ball. We've seen a couple of times from him out wide. The other thing is, because of his nationality, he's going to stay. Whereas Emile, where we get a lot more profit for Emile, and a lot of teams are going to look and go, "Oh, British quota, might be able to get him relatively cheap. Let's get him in." Whereas I don't see the market for Fabio Vieira. I don't know how many clubs would come in right now and make a bid for him. So I think, real shame really, but we'll have to see. And hopefully he gets a move to a club like a Fulham where I could see him fitting in. I think they might make adjustments to the system, although I don't think they would have to make major adjustments. I could see him going in and doing well at a place like that. I think he almost missed the boat with the Villa transfer that kind of fell through at that point. That could have worked out well for both parties, but in the long run,
I'd like to see him go to Villa, if I'll be honest, because it's a big club. You know what I mean? And Emery, he knows well that would be. I want to see him be successful. If Newcastle come in for him, I go, go to Newcastle.
That'd be a fun transfer, actually.
Yeah, go to one of the. I really like, nothing against Fulham. If it is Fulham, you know what I mean. It's London, lovely club. You get game time there. I just want to see him be successful. I really do. I really do. I like the kid. I like him. I like him as a footballer as well. It's just, it's heartbreaking like that. We're talking about this, but it's the reality now. Like as you say, we've just gone up a level, and unfortunately, because of injuries and all that, he's not been able to go with that level. I genuinely think that if he would have stayed fit, he would have. I think he would have gone on to that level. And maybe that we'd be talking about letting Martinelli go instead of him. But why this is that Martinelli has flourished, even though he's got a big season in front of him next season. But, and also I think you have to say why he was injured as well. Martin Odegaard's just been unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yep. And he's not going to get in over him because he's just been sensational for Arsenal the last 2 years.
Yeah. I think Odegaard has surprised me. I'll put my hands up and say at the time of that transfer, I thought smart business, good transfer fee. We just sold Joe Willock, didn't we? And we had the loan move for him. But I didn't see him becoming like the leader he is. Sorry about that, Lee. A bit of technical difficulty. No, I was just saying Odegaard surprised me. His leadership, his pressing, everything he does. He's kind of changed roles this season as well. He's been a fantastic recruitment. He really has. On that kind of note of transfers, I want to kind of get your thoughts and feelings. Imagine you're Edu. You've been just on a jet ski. You've had a cigar on the beach, Lee. A little barbecue. What are the three positions you're kind of identifying, and if you've got them in mind, what players would you like to bring in at this point?
Listen, I think we need another midfield player, another central midfield player. The player that come on, what's his name? Zumbrugger. Who was it? Who come on?
Zubimendi.
Zubimendi. He was sensational when he came on.
Mm.
I know we've been linked with him, Zubimendi, like, you know, and he only played like hardly any football in that tournament. Come on and was brilliant and controlled the midfield. So I think that they've been linked with him, but he wants to stay in Spain. So that's something that so they are looking for someone in that area. I think that they are, like, you know, but like they've let a couple of them go, and Arnold have let sort of go to Aston Villa. I thought we were sort of linked with him. So I do think that they've got somebody in mind. Now I'm hoping it's someone up north, and he's Brazilian. You know what I mean? Love him or hate him, he's the sort of player alongside Declan Rice that I think would be unbelievable. So I don't know if that would be the case. They're waiting for that, but that would be something that I would be going on if I was there. Do Brazilian as well, like, you know. I would look at a wide player that could play wide right, wide left.
Mm-hmm.
You might think I'm mad with this, but I still think there may be something in like Marcus Rashford. I've still got a feeling, like, you know, that something might happen there. Would be someone that I think could happen. Mm-hmm. But we need someone that can play right and left. And the left side of the defence may be something that they've you know, like they're looking to. They've already it looks like they've sorted out. So that, but I'm thinking 3 big players. Because listen, Thomas Partey gets in my team every week, but he's not reliable. That's a fact. You know what I mean? Like it's not, oh well, let's hope that he does well and he stays injury free. He's never has stayed injury free, so that's a fact. So I want someone that when he drops out, the level is up there, or if the player comes in, then Thomas Partey comes in, and there's a level of not a great deal, and that's what we've got to get in that midfield. And I think we've got it with Declan Rice, we've got it with Odegaard, we've got it with Thomas Partey. But say if we was to bring in Bruno, that would be a quartet of top midfield players, and you've got Jorginho that can cover other positions as well. That would be, I think, game changing to win us a league. And I do think that it would do, because I do think that Arsenal would have won the league if Thomas Partey would have been fit all season.
Yeah, I think the same with Timber. Yeah, I think we had such a problem with the kind of mid blocks. So that Aston Villa game, oh my God, that haunts me. But I think we just lacked that kind of, I don't know, that different option, and Partey gives us that. I think a lot of people have forgotten that Partey's still at the club. I think a lot of people have almost kind of like resigned themselves to the fact that he's leaving or something. And it seems to have gone cold on that at the moment. Whether he does leave or not is a different matter. But like you say, I think we've got to get a big player in there. If he does go, especially, we've got to. We can't be. I don't think we can start the season with Rice having played the amount of hours and minutes.
Yeah, exactly that.
Jorginho's another year older, and then Odegaard's then, you know, the only player in that mid 3 that we can kind of rely on at the beginning of the season. And yeah, they must have someone in mind, because like you say, Onana's kind of gone now. Fofana over in France, he seems to be on the move as well.
Yeah.
So it looks like some of the options that we were kind of linked to for reasonable money are kind of moving on. Whether or not Marino comes in now, because that's the most recent link for kind of in the 20 millions. But no, he's not. And that's the thing. For me, the one I've been looking at is De Jong. But are we bringing in another player with massive injury records, you know, and problems? And then we're kind of at the same point as we've been with Partey, where we're kind of, you know, having...
Exactly. That's a great point. It's a great point. Like, you know, Zubimendi would be one that I would look at. Yeah. But, you know, I was very, very impressed with him. Like, you know, like they lost Rodri yesterday, and there was no difference. You know, there might be a course over 5, 6, 7, 8 games, but he come on there and just took control of that midfield. And I was very, very impressed with that. Done it a different way to what Rodri does it. Pass. But that's what Arsenal needs, someone that gets his foot on the ball and passes and dictates from the back of the midfield. Thomas Partey does it better than anybody, by the way, makes it look easy. But as we just said, he's not about all the time. So hopefully we can still keep Thomas Partey because if Thomas Partey does go, right, then we need 2 midfield players.
Yeah. I think we've got to kind of hold on to him for a while longer. I really do.
I'm with you. I'm with you. There ain't nothing better out there. Keep him.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go into next season relying on Thomas Partey. He was fantastic towards the end of last season. When he's up and running, there's no one better. But you know that he's going to break down at some times. And if it is the case, someone's got to come in and go, do you know what? I'm going to take over and you ain't getting back in this team. That's what the sort of player we need. And hopefully whoever they get, they get it. If Arsenal don't go, people have been saying to me over the last, Arsenal ain't going to go big. They bloody better go big this season with a couple of players. I'll tell you that now because the season tickets have gone up tenfold,
Yep.
So, they can't afford, they've got to go in big, you know what I mean? Like, this is the chance now, really. They've done fantastically well over the last 2 seasons. But if they weren't to have a good transfer window this season, and I think that it could be a pressure cooker that we don't need at Arsenal. They need to make sure that they get the players in, and we are the team to beat next season. I think at the end of the day, the reason we haven't won the league over the last couple of seasons, and there's a reason for that, and that's Manchester City. Nothing to do with Arteta, nothing to do with that. They're just that little bit better than everybody else. And the record shows it. But we've closed the gap on them now, and I don't think there's a lot between the 2 teams. If I'll be honest, they've still got a better centre forward than us. They've got an ageing playmaker where I think that Odegaard now will take over him. So we've got to match them and get up there with them, and you ain't going to do that by getting 15 million players in. The reason Declan Rice was superb last season because he was a top player, but we had to pay top money for him, and that will come along. Martinelli comes along, and Odegaard comes along, and get every now and then. But we're at a stage now where we've got to go in big with big time players, and flex our muscles. We're in a position where we can flex our muscles, where we are the second best team in the country, and we are challenging for the title. For years, we've never even been doing that. But we're in a situation now, going into this transfer window, going into this new season, where we're in a conversation that we can win the league. So you've got to make sure that these transfers are done, and they're done big. And I'm sorry, I don't want to skinflint in these things. We didn't skinflint on Declan Rice, and there's a reason why we didn't. We went big because we knew how good he was, and that's what we've got to do with 1 or 2 players. Whether it's a centre forward or a wide player or a midfielder, then so be it. But we need to do it.
With you saying that, and I want to win, just so you're aware, I really want to win the league before Pep leaves. We have got to beat him, because the last thing I want is the whole, Liverpool get it a lot of the time that, you won the Premier League, where it's COVID. It's not a real season. I don't want it to be a case of, Klopp left, Pep left, and then you won the league. I want to win it, beat the best. That's and unfortunately for the league, itself, Pep will move on eventually. For us, it'll be a great thing. But I think we do need to do that. Before we finish up, then, Lee, we've got Bournemouth in a week now, is it?
Week Wednesday.
Yeah. So and then on the 17th of August, I think it is, the first game of the season against Wolves. Are we winning that first game? And then the next question is, are we winning the league?
I think pre-season is going to be very, very important, because obviously, like, a lot of the players are not going to be out to America. over the last 2 years, been fortunate enough to go on the tours. I've seen us be ready for the coming season. We ain't going to be ready. There's going to be 5 or 6 players not even on this tour. So the American tour, where I think I've gone there and thought, oh, we're ready. You know, we've beaten teams and played really well. We're not going to be quite there when we go there. I think the Emirates Cup will be a little bit more of an indication where we are than America this time around. But still, you know, you still got to get players into it. But those 2 games, the likes of Declan Rice, I think, will be involved in at least one of them, and Martinelli's and all that. I can't see them. They won't be going on the tour. So that first game will be interesting. We might have to just, the Sakas and Declan Rices may not be quite up to scratch, but we need to make sure that all the other players are, so that we get through that game and then the Aston Villa game before we take on Spurs and Manchester City with everybody back and fresh and all that. Like, you know, I'd rather not have Declan Rice take a gamble and not have Declan Rice for those first 2 games, and the likes of Saka. And if we've got other players that can get through and we win those games without them, and then be really ready for the Man City. And because don't forget, like, there's an international break, funny enough, in between that. So that first game at Wolves, I don't think it's just get the win. Just get the win. And do I think Arsenal will win the league? If we get off to a good start, we will win the league this year.
Go on, Lee. Love it. Not sitting on the fence. I love that.
No, I do think that we're close. We was close last season. Good couple of signings. I think that we will win it this year. Like, yeah.
Nice. Love that. Thank you so much for your time, Lee. I really,
no problems. Really enjoyed it. Like, no worries. And good luck with the channel. Like, yeah.
Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed to Lee's channel, I don't know what you're doing with your time, but please make sure you go over to Lee Judges TV and subscribe to him over there. Watch every video, like every video. You can find Lee on X, or Twitter, as I like to call it because I'm old, and at Lee Mark Judges with his middle name. Sounding all posh there, Lee. I love that.
Well, no, a little story on that. I had to do that because before I come on Twitter and everything, there was a parody account, like, so that's why I have to use my middle name.
No way.
Yeah, so that's why I have to use my middle name. So yeah, so on Instagram, and it's not me being posh, it's just the way I had to do it, like, you know what I mean?
You need to get Don Robbie to pay for that account.
Yeah, I've tried to get rid of it a few times, but it don't happen, like, you know what I mean? So there you go.
Love that. Yeah, please make sure you do subscribe to Lee and catch him on Twitter. And obviously, he's on so many things for AFT, like the Invincible podcast. He's on the Forever Arsenal, which is one of my favourite podcasts. And you might one day catch him on the Tactical Insight show. He'll most likely be napping, but he will be on there. So thank you very much, Lee. Like and subscribe to the Full Run Football channel, and I will catch you next week. Cheers now.